Hari Hari, Mukunda Murari, Rama Krishna, Hayagriva, all the names of Krishna. Bolo means by saying that. So by doing Nama Sankirtan, we can get out of the darkness. So Srimad Bhagavatam, the last verse, 12, 13, 23, it says, Nama Sankirtana Yasa Sarva Papa Pranasanam Pranama Dukkha Samanyas Tam Namami Harim Param.
Really nice to bring that up, and just the whole metaphor of spiritual life is awakening. We're waking up from sleep, we're in darkness of ignorance. And what wakes us up? What is the light? Prabhu was saying, the light of Krishna Nam coming into us. Bolo Hari Hari. Okay, and then Mukunda. So, oh yes, Tim, go ahead. Give your commentary. Did you find the verse? Navai Jano Jata Katam Ritam Rajan Mukunda Sevan Yava Angrisam Shrutim. Yes,
Hare Krishna.
Tim.
Bhagavad Gita 10:20. I am the Self, O Gudakesha, seated in the hearts of all creatures. I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings. And then here it says, O Jiva soul, arise and give up your sleep. So I saw the connection there between conquering sleep and Gudakesha. And also the night has come to an end and the light of dawn is entering. And then in 10:20, Krishna says he's the beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings. And it's sort of something like that. Again, with the first sentence, night and then day, it's sort of that sequence, and then it kind of relates that way.
Very nicely done. Bravo. Okay. Another verse with Mukunda in it. Navai Juno Jata Katan Chanan Brajan.
It's 1519.
1519. You're going to love this verse. Wait till you hear it. Go ahead.
Navai jano jatu kathanchana vrajen mukunda sevyan vayadanga samsritim smaran mukundang gripaguhanam punar vihatumicche narasagraho jana. Translation. My dear Vyasa, even though a devotee of Lord Krishna sometimes falls down somehow or other, he certainly does not undergo material existence like others, fruitive workers, etc. Because a person who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again.
And go back to the word for word. Yeah. Mukunda Sevi, devoted to the Lord. He's serving Mukunda. Mukundangri, the lotus feet of the Lord. So we have that when we think of the Mukunda. And then we also had Devarshi Bhutatman Nrinam Vitranam. First number is 11. You can start with the 11.
11.541.
11.541. Mukunda is such a nice name, isn't it? Mukundangri, the lotus feet of the Lord, and Mukunda Sevi, the devotee of the Lord. Together, Devar Shibhuta Nandranam Pitrinam Niking Koronayam Ranicharajan Sarvatmanaya Sharanam Sharanyan Gato Mukundam Parihrita Kartam. Translation is together. O King, one who has given up all material duties and has taken full shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, who offers shelter to all, is not indebted to the demigods, great sages, ordinary living beings, relatives, friends, mankind, or even one's forefathers who have passed away, since all such classes of living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. One who has surrendered to the Lord's service has no need to serve such persons separately. No more 52 cousins. Okay, so everyone learn all these verses and be ready to give full commentary. And now we're going to go to Divinity and Divine Service. We have our logo now for Get the 34. Does anybody have it? Or only I have it? Can you bring me my phone? I'll try to send it to somebody. You can put it up. You have it? Malini must have it. She came out. shot from a cannon. So she'll show. Plus we have a PDF of all the verses. So you can print these today and take them with you. And I'm going to have Sutra Malika record the verses in his beautiful Sanskrit rendition. Such a transcendental voice he has. He can record everything. There it is. Get the 34. It's going to come on the screen in a minute. So let's chant this together. And remember, we have how many days to memorize all these verses? It's till Bhadra Purnima. How many days do we have? We should know that too.
50 days around.
50? 60 or 50?
50.
That's scary. Okay. That means like 1,000 Bhagavatams a day. Let's start on number 1. Maybe go back to number 1. Vyasuvacha iti samprashna samrishto vipranamro maharshini pratipuja vachastesham prabhaktum pachakrame sutuvacha yam pravajantam anupetam apeta krityam dvaipayano viraha kartara ajuhava putreti tanmataya taravo binedus tan sarva bhuta hridayam munim anatosmi yaksvanubhavam akila shuti saramekam adhyatmadhipam atitirshatam samondam samsarinam karunayaha paranaguyam tam vyasasunumupayami gurun muninam narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jaya mudirayet munayak sadhu prishtoham babadbhir lokamangalam yat krita Krishna samprashno yenatma suprasidati savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir datoksaje ahaitukya pratiyata yayatma suprasidati vasudeve bhagavati bhakti yoga prayojitaha janayat yashuvairagyam jnanam chayadahaitukam dharma swanushtita pumsam vishvaksena kathasuya notpadayed yadiratim shrama eva hi kevalam dharmasya hyapavargasya nartortayopakalpate nartasya dharmaikantasya kamolabhaya hismritaha kamasya nendriya pritir labo jivete avata jivasya tattva jignasa narto yasheha karmapi vadanti tattva vidas tattvam yadgyanamadvayam prameti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate tashtadhana munayo jnana vairagya yuktaya pasyantyatmani chatmanam bhaktya shuta grihitaya atakpum pir dvidya shreshta varnashrama vibhagasha swanushtistasya dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam tasmadekena manasa bhagavan sattvatam-pati shotavya kirtitavyascha yeya pujascha nityada Yad anudyasina yukta karma granti nibandhanam chindanti kovidastasya kona kuryat kataratim shushusho shraddhanasya vasudeva katarichi syanmahat sevaya vipra punyatirtan shevanan Shinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ridyantakstohya Bhadrani Vidhunoti Suhritsatam Nasha Praeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Gitama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Tadra rajastamo bhava kamalobhadayashaye cheta eter anavidham stitam sattve prasidati evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate Vidyate raya grantish chijante sarva sankshaya shiyante chasya karmani krishna evatmanishvare ato vai kavayo nityam bhaktim paramayamuda vasudeve bhagavati gurvantyatma prasadanim Sattvam Rajastamayiti Prakritir Gunastar Yukta Para Purusha Eka Ihasya Dhate Stityadaye Hari Varinshi Hareti Samja Sheyamsi Tattva Kalu Tattva Tanornranam Su Partivadharano Dhumas Tasmad Agnistrayimaya Tamasastu rajastasmat sattvam yad brahmadarshanam Bhejire muniyotagre bhagavantam atoksajam sattvam vishuddham shemaya kalpante yenutaniha mumukshavo gaurarupan hitva bhuta patinata Narayana Kalashanta Bhajanti Yanasuyava Rajastama Prakritaya Samashila Bhajanti Vai Pitrir Bhuta Bhajeshadin Shri Aishvarya Prajapsavaha Vasudeva Paraveda Vasudeva Paramakaha Vyasadeva para yoga, Vyasadeva para kriya, Vyasadeva param jnanam, Vyasadeva param tapaha, Vyasadeva paro dharmo, Vyasadeva paragati. Sa evedam sasarjagre, Bhagavanatma mayaya, Sadasadrupaya chasau gunamaya kuno vibhu taya vilashite shveshu guneshu gunavan eva antak pravishta abhati vijnanena vrajrambrita yata hyavahito vanir darushveka svayonishu Naneva bhati vishvatma uteshu chatatapuman asau gunamayer bhavayer uta shukshmendriyatmabi swanirmiteshu nirvishto punkte bhuteshu tadgunan bhavayatyesha satvena lokan vai lokabhavana Lila Vatadanurato Devatiryan Naradishu Iti Srimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramahamsyam Samitayam Pratamaskande Namishiyo Prakyane Dvitiyo Dhyayaha Hari Om. Srimad Bhagavatam class. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Wait, do we have the logo? Do we have it? No, yes? Yeah, no, yo, no, yeah. We have it. Can we see it? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We'll get ready for Bhagavatam class, and maybe by then we can see our logo. Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Murari Rama Krishna Hayagriva Vibhabari Shesha Aloka Pravesha Nidrachari Utoji Iva Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Murari Rama Krishna Griva. Do you know the whole thing? Number 3. All right, give me here, I'll just do it. I need that one little table. Quick, because she's holding this heavy thing. Yeah, it's coming only in a minute. Give her a hand with this. Thank you. The verses at the beginning of the son of Drona punished. The key verses there. Uh-oh. We got a sticker. We'd like to reveal the logo for Get the 34, which is now on your screen. Haribo! I'd like to donate this microphone back to the institution. Get the 34. It says memorize chapter, should say we memorize chapter 2 of Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1 by Bhadra Purnima 2023. So the good slight adjustment. How do you like the logo? Okay. So it comes with a PDF that has the Romanized Sanskrit and the word for word and the translation. So you can print it out, the PDF, and then take that with you. And also, we hope in the next couple of days to have a nice recording that we'll pass around so you can keep listening to it over and over again. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Jaya Giri Varadhari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Jaya Giri Varadhari. Jashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jamuna Tiravanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Wait for it. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiraye Vagisha Yasya Vadane Lakshmi Yasya Chavakshasi Yasyaste Hridaye Sambit Tam Nashingam Maham Bhaje Sampradaya Vashudartam Svi Nirbandhan Trita Shruti Stuti Mita Vakyam Karishyami Yatamati Srimad Bhagavatam Purvai Sarata Sanishevitam Maya Tutad Upasprishtam Uchishtam Upachiyate Mama Ratna Vinigbavam Ratnanya Parichintvata Hasantu Santu Jireme Naswa Swanta Vinoda Krit Namestu Vidushyapi Napi Bhaktir Virakti Rakti Natatapi Loyat Sadurgamad Eva Bhavami Veda Stutyarta Chintamani Rashi Grignu Mam Nichatayam Abhekavayu Pravartate Patayitum Palachchet Likham Yata Swami Sanatana Shri Krishnangri Bastamba Kritam Valamba Pranam Yasti Gurum Bhuya Shri Krishnam Karunarnavam Lokanatham Jagatchakshu Shri Shukam Tadupashraye Om Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We'll read a section from the Srimad Bhagavatam today, chapter 7 of the first canto, the son of Drona punished. At text number 1, we have Shaunaka Rishi. And Shaunaka is the elder amongst the sages who's speaking on their behalf. And he says to Sutta Goswami, who's in the seat of esteem, O Sutta, the great and transcendently powerful Vyasadev heard everything from Sri Narada Muni. So after Narada's departure, what did Vyasadev do? Purport: in this chapter, the clue for describing Srimad Bhagavatam is picked up as Maharaj Parikshit is miraculously saved in the womb of his mother. This was caused by Drauni, Ashwatthama, Acharya Drona's son, who killed the 5 sons of Draupadi while they were asleep, for which he was punished by Arjuna. Before commencing the great epic Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Vyasadeva realized the whole truth by trance in devotion. Then text number 2, Sutta is replying. He says, Rama Nadyam Saraswatyam Ashrama Paschime Tate Shambhya Prasa Iti Prokta Rishinam Satravardhanaha. Sutta says, on the western bank of the river Saraswati, which is intimately related with the Vedas, there is a cottage for meditation at Shambhya Prasa, which enlivens the transcendental activity of the sages. Prabhupada. For spiritual advancement of knowledge, a suitable place and atmosphere are definitely required. The place on the western bank of the Saraswati is especially suitable for this purpose. And there is the ashrama at Vyasadev, and there is the ashrama of Vyasadev at Shamya Prasa. Srila Vyasadev was a householder, yet his residential place is called an ashrama. An ashrama is a place where spiritual culture is always foremost. It does not matter whether the place belongs to a householder or a mendicant. The whole varnashrama system is so designed that each and every status of life is called an ashrama. This means that spiritual culture is the common factor for all. The brahmacharis, the grahastas, the vanaprasthas, and the sannyasis all belong to the same mission of life, namely realization of the Supreme. Therefore, none of them are less important as far as spiritual culture is concerned. The difference is a matter of formality on the strength of renunciation. The sannyasis are held in high estimation on the strength of practical renunciation. Om jnana timirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurun nidatandena tasmai shri gurave namaha. So this point about the levels of renunciation. And true renunciation is described by Srila Rupa Goswami when he says, Anasaktasya vishayan yatarham umpayunjita nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyamuchite prapanchikataya buddhya hari sambandhi vastuna brahmukshabhi prityago vairagyam palugukatyate. He says there's a false kind of renunciation, Palugu Vairagya, which correlates with the Palugu River in Gaya. There's a river that appears to be dry. It's a dry river, but if you plunge your hand into the sand underneath, you'll find some water. So sometimes, as Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, a pretender will renounce the world externally, but inside will maintain material desires. And this he calls cheating. And the real renunciation means that one has a change of heart. And this change of heart then gives one a different course in life. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Vishaya vinivartante niraharasadehina rasavarjam rasopyasya param dushmanavartade. Vishaya vinivartante. He said sometimes we're performing austerities, controlling our senses, but internally we're still thinking about that sense activity. That it's going on in our mind. We're still attached to it, even though we're saying, no, I'm not going to touch it. And then he says there's a different level, which is that one gets a higher taste. That is, there's somewhere else to go besides that sense object. In the material world, the only offering we have is what's before us when we come out of the womb. The material senses, says the Hamsa Avatar, when he's answering the questions of the Kumaras, the four Kumaras, that the world is we are inextricably connected to the world because the senses and the sense objects are embedded in one another. Practically they're one. So it's no wonder that each sense has its way of correlating with or being inextricably drawn to a particular sense object. It's already connected. One thing goes with another. And according to the development of the modes of material nature within the consciousness of a living being, then there's a set of sense objects that are particularly attractive to such a person. And it's not until there's purification of heart that the living being realizes that there's another way to engage the senses. And that is the process of devotional service. Sarvopadivanir muktam tatpratvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktiruchate. And there's a way in which there are spiritual sense objects. In fact, those are the real sense objects. And when we engage our senses in the service of those spiritual objects, that is Krishna, and everything related to Krishna. Of course, everything's related to Krishna, and in expanding Krishna consciousness, one realizes that if I see a sun ray on the ground, I think, oh, Krishna says, I am the light of the sun and the moon, and we feel a thrill. It's like, wait a minute, Krishna's right here, right now. And then there's also the form of Krishna, which is the object of meditation for the devotees. Ananyas chintayanto mam, yejana paripasate. Krishna says, if someone meditates upon me, on my transcendental form, and that's their exclusive meditation, then there's a different flow in life for such a person. Everything is happening on the internal level, and one's not depending on the external world. When we were just away, I don't know if you noticed or not, because it was weekdays, but we took a break near Kula, and I took a break because we usually do once a year, but it got canceled last year because of the youth yatra, which is better anyway. But we still needed a break, at least 4 or 5 days where we could walk in nature and just be in a discussion about what's most important in life and so forth. Helps to slow down for a few days, right? Say yes. Yeah, you got to slow down. Krishna mentions it in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita that you have to recreate. And by the way, we need more air in here. If you could get a cross ventilation, we'll immediately notice how our brains become 62% more efficient. And so I was watching from the place we were, there was a window and I could watch, there were a lot of animals because we were in a very natural area. And some of them were rabbits, little bunnies actually, kind of cute. Krishna's got a sense of humor. He gives these long ears and a little button tail. They look so cute. They'll probably bite you though. And they're out there hopping around. And what are you guys eating? Like, I was thinking for all the deer and the bunnies and everybody else, we saw the cows there. The whole world is an open salad bar. It's like, you come out, it's like, salad bar, help yourself, all you can eat. And I was thinking how Krishna's so kind, he makes available to everybody all these amenities, they're naturally there. With one who then gets superior knowledge and then engages his or her senses, Hrishikena Hrishikesha, engages the senses directly in Krishna's service, not through anamoy or indirectly that I'm serving God by eating and I don't really have a clear awareness of where it's coming from, but we transfer everything to an understanding that this is coming from Krishna. And then there's a way that we develop gratitude and then we want to offer service. So sarvo parimanir muktan tapratvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam. When the seva mood awakens that I want to do something, this is the eternal dharma of the soul. And when that happens, then there's a higher taste. That this vishaya vinivartante nirahara sadehina applies to those who are mechanically controlling their senses to reach a higher cause, because as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, without such sacrifice, no matter what practice you're in, and he names a number of practices, the pranayama practice, and somebody else may be doing some jata yoga, all these different ways that people try to control their senses, where are you going to find any benefit in life without doing some sacrifice? And when one comes to the point of bhakti, Vasudeva Sarvamiti, then wants to offer service to Krishna, then one starts to awaken a higher purpose in life and a taste that is beyond the compulsion of the senses to engage with their objects. We transfer our attachment from serving the senses mechanically because we're forced by material nature, maya jakshena prakriti svite satcharacharam, or prakrite gunakarmani, what did I say wrong? Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha. There's a natural course in the material world. We don't question it until we do. And then when we do, then we're restraining. But then sevanam bhakti ruchate. Once we enter into this mood of seva, out of gratitude to Krishna, and we begin serving him and his senses, because he's Rishikesha, he's the master of our senses, the origin of our senses, then param drishva nivartate, we get a higher taste. And this is renunciation. Renunciation doesn't mean simply to eschew the material sense objects. Eschew doesn't mean to chew them. It means to give them up, to stand back from them. You can look up the word, please, from our research department, eschew. And then we have this turiya. Turiya means the fourth dimension. We go past the three dimensions of the material world and we enter into the level of Vyasadev, where Krishna lives, where we can see Krishna directly, we can see his senses, we can see his form, we can hear the transcendental vibration from the spiritual world. All that becomes clear to us. Then there's a natural way in which we're already transferred out of the material sense gratification, and all of the interaction we have with our senses and the world goes on as if in an official way. This was mentioned about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was hearing from Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy. He went on with his daily activities, which would be bathing, doing ablutions, and then doing his Sandhya Vandanas and the different ways you have to eat and interact with the world. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Kaviraj Goswami said, he did it officially. It was only going on. Naiva kinchit karumiti yuktam manita tatvavit pashyan shrinvan sprishan jigran ashnan gachan shapan shvasan pralapan vishnunan grinan unmishan nimishan napi indriyan indriyarteshu vartanta iti daryan. I love saying that verse, sorry. And this means that the person who's already param drishva nivartate, tasting something better by engaging in service to Krishna, the Supreme, then all the other activities of the senses, they're all official. Just watching them go on. I have nothing to do with this. This is not my realm. I'm in a different realm now. This constitutes real renunciation. What's more, there's a way in which the devotee sees then everything as an opportunity to serve Krishna. Previously, the conditioned soul would see everything as an opportunity for sense gratification. How's this going to fortify my position here in the material world, save me from death, or how's it going to give me status according to my material body, my name, my fame, and reputation, and so forth. But then one who's truly renounced is then interested only in increasing Krishna's fame and engaging in Krishna's service. And then one is known to be truly renounced. So all the ashramas are meant to reconnect ourselves with Krishna. As mentioned, Mukhabahuru Padebhya Purushasya Ashramashahai Chatvaro Jagnire Varna Gunar Vipradayo Pratak. And that is the whole system for human beings who are conditioned in the material world of 4 varnas and ashrams is created from the various parts of the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in the next verse, it is said that if one engages in varnashrama but neglects one's connection in service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, such so-called varnashrama is useless. It's simply going through the motions, and actually it's offensive because you're not offering everything to Krishna. So in devotional service and in the ashramas that we have called Daivi Varnashrama, we're very purposefully aligning ourselves at each segment of our life to use our senses to engage in Krishna service, and then naturally we become detached from the ordinary course of sensual activities in the material world because we have param drishva, we've seen something superior, and this is true renunciation. One other point about this ashrama system, and we talk about sannyas. So a nyasa, like the other day when we did the deity installation, remember that? Was anybody there? Yes, 2 people. So then at the end, Suryakund Prabhu did a nyasa ceremony where you touch the different limbs of the deity, the heart of the deity, and you say a mantra. And so this is called nyasa. And how many of you today have performed a nyasa? Everyone with tilak on should raise their hand. Did you put tilak on today? Okay. Well, tilak is a nyasa. Nyasa means where you place something. So, Om Keshavaya Namaha, Om Narayanaaya Namaha, Om Madhavaya Namaha, Om Govindaya Namaha, Vishnavaya Namaha, Madhusudan Trivikram, Vamanaya Shridharaya, Hrishikeshana, Padmanamaya, Damodharaya Namaha, Vasudevaya Namaha. Right? you're placing a mantra a different place of the body, and you're marking it with sacred tilak. Yes? So this is called a nyasa. So sang means everything. Nyasa means where you place something, where it's properly placed. So Om Keshavaya goes here, right? Correct. So Om Keshavaya, Om Narayana, Om Madhavayana, Om Govayana. We know where everything goes, where all the mantras go. So sannyas, a sannyasi, means one who knows where everything goes. Where does that thing go? That goes to Krishna. What do we do with this? We give it to Krishna. We give it to Krishna. Everything gets placed in its proper order in relationship to Krishna. This is called anasaktasya vishayan yatarhamupayunjita. Such a person knows how to put everything into Krishna's service. So whatever ashrama one's in, one should be sannyas. One should know how to place everything properly. When you set up your house, if you're a householder, it means you hold a house, you got the papers, right? And then say, yeah, this is my house for now. Then what do you do with your house? You put everything in the right order. Kitchen is meant to be a place where you cook for Krishna, right? And then your altar, you have an altar in your house? Of course. That's the first thing when you're buying a house, like, where's the temple room going to be? You look for everything, you put it in its place. Then everything you do throughout the day, it's as an offering to Krishna. Everything's put in its proper place. Next verse is number 3. Tasmin swa ashrame vyaso badaris shandamandite asino pa upashrishya panidadyao manaksoyam. In that place, please meditate on this. This is a beautiful scene where Srila Vyasadev has received instruction from his guru, who is Narada Muni, and it's in the previous chapters, right? And he told him, go back, get a little deeper, a lot deeper, and see this through samadhi, see the pastimes of the Lord. So he's gone back to his ashrama, which has a specific feature, and that is that it's beyond the modes of nature. That's a nice ashrama to have. And he's gone to that place. So it says, in that place, Srila Vyasadeva, in his own ashrama, you should have your own ashrama, which was surrounded by berry trees. That's why I like berries. Sat down to meditate after touching water for purification. So there's a way, very deliberate way that we approach the Lord. You know, we do a little achmana, like before we do yagyas, Om Apavitra. We touch water, we're purifying ourselves. And then he sat down to meditate on whom? On the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. Under instructions of his spiritual master, Srila Narada Muni, Vyasadeva concentrated his mind in that transcendental place of meditation. What does eschew mean? To what? To release? Eschew.
It means to refuse.
Say how it's pronounced there.
Eschew.
Eschew?
It's a verb. It's spelled E-S-chew. So.
E-S-chew.
To refuse.
How to Give Up the World by the author, E.S. Chu. Okay.
To refuse to use or participate in, stand aloof from, shun, or avoid. It comes from Old French eschever, which means to shun, eschew, avoid, or dispense with. And it comes from the German word schuhen, which means to fear, shun, or shrink from.
Nice, huh? Not bad anyway. Eschew. Thank you. Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranihite male apashyat purusham purna mayam cha tad apashrayam. So if there's ever any time you were going to lean in and listen to something really carefully, this is it. Ready? Okay. 2%. Perfect vision of the absolute truth. Thus he fixed his mind, perfectly engaging it by linking it in devotional service, bhakti yoga, without any tinge of materialism. And thus he saw the absolute personality of God along with his external energy, which was under full control. Bhakti means devotional service. Yogena, by the process of linking up. Manasi, upon the mind. Samyak, perfectly. Pranihite, engaged and fixed upon. Amale, without any matter. Apashyat, saw. Purusham, the personality of Godhead. Purnam, absolute. Mayam, energy. Cha, also. Tat, his. Apashrayam, under full control. Purport. Perfect vision of the absolute truth is possible only by the linking process of devotional service. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. One can perfectly realize the absolute truth, personality of Godhead, only by the process of devotional service, and one can enter into the kingdom of God by such perfect knowledge. Imperfect realization of the absolute by the partial approach of the impersonal Brahman or localized Paramatma does not permit anyone to enter into the kingdom of God. Sri Narada advised Srila Vyasadev to become absorbed in transcendental meditation on the personality of Godhead and his activities. Srila Vyasadev did not take notice of the effulgence of Brahman because that is not absolute vision. The absolute vision is the personality of Godhead, as it is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 7:19, Vaisesika Sarvamiti. In the Upanishads also, it is confirmed that Vasudev, the personality of Godhead, is covered by the golden glowing Hiranmayana Patrina veil of impersonal Brahman, and when that curtain is removed by the mercy of the Lord, the real face of the Absolute is seen. Verse, please. Someone give the translation as best they can from memory. We'll need microphones all over this whole room in the next half hour.
This verse talks about how Krishna, or the Lord, has a face, and that face is covered by dazzling effulgence. So the verse says, please remove this effulgence that is, and show us really your face.
Thank you. The Absolute is mentioned here as the Purusha, or person. The absolute personality of Godhead is mentioned in so many Vedic literatures and in the Bhagavad Gita. The Purusha is confirmed as the eternal and original person. Somebody give me a verse which says that the Lord is always a person. In fact, it's those exact words in the translation. He is always a person. No, Bhagavad Gita. He's seen as smaller than, I'll give a hint. It's in the verse where it says he's smaller than the smallest, larger than the largest. He's a maintainer of everything. He is always a person. Take the mic and then say it properly. I mean, that's properly shouted out too, but if you take the mic and say it very deliberately and slowly, that will be helpful.
I remember only half of that.
Half is good. You get credit even if you remember part of a verse.
Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram
Anushasitaram Anurariyam Samanusmaritya Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat. Translation, please.
One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental beyond this material nature.
Yeah, it's good to know, because we met a guy about 10 years ago when we were going door to door. He came out of his apartment, and when he saw what we were offering, he said, I already know everything. I called all the devotees. I said, you got to get up here. This guy knows everything. He said, no, not like that. And I said, okay. But Krishna actually does. Kavim Puranam. He's the oldest and he knows everything. But as a very important in this verse, he's always a person. And one of the key points that Srila Vyasadev is going to bring out, and does bring out, and Narada brings out, is unless we go to the person, the personality of Godhead, Yene Ravindaksha Vamukti Maninas, all other conceptions leave us short. Avashuddha Buddhaya. We don't have a perfect conception of God until we have the personal conception. Yet pada pankacha vilasya, I'm sorry. Yet pada pankacha palasa vilasya bhakta. Vilasa bhakta means that when we know the person, there's vilas. There's this interaction that is happy. And that's the happiness we seek. All the other forms, when we meet Paramatma, we become cerebral and we're like, wow, he's all pervading. He's the intuition behind the birds that are flying here, there, and everywhere. When we were just away, we saw these seabirds, and they'd get together and they're flying very deliberately in a certain direction. They're like, how do you guys know where you're going anyway? And down to the little microbes, everybody knows what they're doing because ekopyaso racharitum jagaranda kotim yat shakti rasti jagaranda chaya yaranta andantarasta paramanu chayantarastam govindamari purusham tamahambari ishvara sarvabhutanam hrideshara janatistati prayam samabhutani yantra rudrani mayaya sarvasya chaham hridisani vishto mataksmitir jnanam apohanam cha Vedaishta sarve rahame vevejo vedanta kridveda vedeva chaham. So Krishna's there within the heart, he's directing everything. And then the Brahman, effulgence of the Lord, there's an undifferentiated sense, there's no quality there except a sense of existence. And then there's cognition, chit within the Paramatma. But ananda comes from the realization of Bhagavan. And it's in that there's vilas. And only there, says the Bhagavatam, does one have full liberation. Because then we're, as we mentioned earlier, we're engaged in a higher activity. That is the bliss of service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in different varieties according to our nature. And it's because of that we're able to disregard or eschew the offerings, the multifarious offerings given to us by the material nature, which to the eye of somebody who's gone into the realm of Turiya, beyond the modes of material nature, these are all the same thing. Pebbles, stones, and gold. If you see pebbles, stones, and gold, it's like same category. It's all the material world. What am I going to do with that stuff? Except engage it in Krishna's service. But it's all the same. And if you get chat, what is it called? AI? Chat what? Chat GBC. Chat GBT. GPT. Chat GPT. And it has 1 billion search engines working at the same time. It's still pulling in the three modes of material nature. It's all it can do. It's like, here you go. Here's all the stuff that's available just at the command of the person who's running the keyboard. But it all comes back to the same thing for the person who's achieved this sense of the personality of Godhead. And this is where real ananda, or the connection to the Supreme, takes place. And that's what's being described here. So Srila Vyasadeva is realizing the Purusha. The Absolute is mentioned here as the Purusha, or person. The Absolute Personality of Godhead is mentioned in so many Vedic literatures, and in the Bhagavad Gita, the Purusha is confirmed as the eternal and original person. The Absolute Personality of Godhead is the perfect person. The Supreme Person has manifold energies, out of which the internal, external, and marginal energies are specifically important. The energy mentioned here is the external energy, as will be clear from the statements of her activities. The internal energy is there along with the Absolute Person, as the moonlight is there with the moon. So if you say, I saw the full moon, you know that you saw the moonlight. So in a similar way, Purusham Purnam, if you saw the complete person, Purusha Purnam, the whole personality from whom everything else emanates, then you also know that you saw the energies that come from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because the Supreme Personality, Svabhavika Jnana Bala Kriya Cha, there are unlimited energies that manifest from the Supreme. And that's the meaning of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is that He is the energetic from whom multifarious energies emanate. The external energy is compared. Now, pay attention to this part, the last part of the paragraph. This may be relevant. You can tell me how it's relevant when I read it, okay? Say yes. Yes. The external energy is compared to darkness because it keeps the living entities in the darkness of ignorance. The word apashrayam suggests that this energy of the Lord is under full control. Is it under our full control? Did you ever feel like your life is out of control? Yeah. Somebody said, enthusiastically said yes. Yeah. But that doesn't mean it's out of control. It's always in control, Krishna's control. It doesn't mean there's chaos in the universe. It just means that according to my plan to manipulate the material energy in my way, it's out of my control, not out of Krishna's control ever. That's good to know, right? Say yes. The internal potency or supreme energy is also called Maya, but it is spiritual Maya or energy exhibited in the absolute realm. I'll read that again. The internal potency or spiritual energy is also called Maya, but it is spiritual Maya or energy exhibited in the absolute realm. When one is under the shelter of this internal potency, the darkness of material ignorance is at once dissipated. And even those who are Atma Rama, or fixed in trance, take shelter of this Maya, or internal energy. Devotional service or bhakti yoga is the function of the internal energy. Thus, there is no place for the inferior energy or material energy, just as there is no place for darkness in the effulgence of spiritual light. Such internal energy is even superior to the spiritual bliss attainable in the conception of impersonal Brahman. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that the impersonal Brahman effulgence is also an emanation from the absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. The Parama Purusha cannot be anyone except Sri Krishna himself, as will be explained in the later shlokas. So we'll just take a short time for some questions to make the conversation deeper. It's a weird way to say that, but or reflections. Yes, Yashoda Kripa.
Hare Krishna. So Maharaj, you started the session with this idea of renunciation, and I was remembering one lecture of Srila Prabhupada, where actually I could resonate the same idea with this topic, where he refutes the very idea of renunciation, saying that for renouncing something, you must first own something. So when we don't even own something, how can we even think of renouncing something? So what is ours at the first place? There is nothing. So it means the idea of renunciation is fundamentally wrong.
Right. I mean, wrong, yes. That's exactly right. Therefore, there are three paths mentioned. There's the path of material enjoyment, there's a path of renouncing the world, and then there's a path of service to Krishna. So in the path of material enjoyment, there's a problem, and that is Chapala Sukha. Lord Chaitanya taught this. Chapala Sukha means flickering happiness. Don't you hate it when you're talking to somebody on the phone and then you have to say, "Are you still there? Are you still there?" Don't you hate that? I just think, like, I just paid $1,000 for this and I can't even hear the person on the other side. What to speak of the monthly charges, just to keep it going. And then you can't hear. And when it's shaky, it's chapala, it's here, there, gone, up. So happiness that is flickering is no happiness at all. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate adyantavanta konteya nate shuramate buddha. He says, any of the happiness that you conceive of as srisha, you're touching the senses to their objects, and you think this is going to be happy. He said, no, it's not. It's going to give you misery instead of happiness. You're going to get the opposite result of what you want. Good to know, right? Good information. So this is Chapala Sukha, and then he and then Lord Chaitanya taught Sanatana Goswami about bhoga tyaga. So bhoga, because the sukha in the material world is chapala, it's flickering. It's worse than that, actually. It's because it gives the opposite result. We get misery from the so-called happiness we endeavor for in the material world. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj says, where is it? What's the verse? He's asking the question in the ninth chapter, 7-9, that where is this so-called happiness? Shruti Sukham, Mrigatrishni Rupa. He said it's Shruti Sukham. You hear about the happiness in the material world, but you never quite get there. It's the kind of happiness where you're invited to somebody's house, they're going to feed you, and they give you a nice seat in the living room. The kitchen's right next door. You know something's cooking because you know that, what are those things called? The pressure cooker? It's going. And you can hear some pots moving around, but it's getting later and later and later. And they're still talking to you about their kids and the scores they got on their SATs, and you know you're hungry and it's getting later, and then they bring you a little water, but this water, it doesn't have any glucose in it for your brain, you know, so you can perk up. It's just flavored water with nothing in it, and you drink that, and you're thinking, I'm so hungry, I wish they would stop talking and feed us. But they never do. And that's the material world. What's the first word? Kutra Ashisha. Where is this benediction we're hearing about? Ashisha. It's a kutra. Where is it? Prahlad Maharaj is saying, he's a little boy, and he's saying, everyone's talking about the happiness you're going to get by working hard in the material world. It says kutra. Where is it again? Could you tell where it is? Kutra Ashisha, some benediction you're hoping for? Shruti Sukham. He said, you only hear about it, you never actually get it. Just like at the person's house. They're like, yeah, we're going to feed you. Not. And then it doesn't come out. And then he says, Mrigatrishni Rupa. Mriga's the deer, and the deer in the desert runs after the mirage, thinking that they're going to get water, and they never get there. And the Rupa, the form of the material world, is a mirage. By nature, it's just a reflective image of the spiritual world. So you're not going to get the happiness that you're looking for here in the material world. Good to know. So, yes, Chapa Sukha, and then Bhoga Tyaga. Once you go for that happiness and you find yourself stymied, is that a word in the dictionary? Stymied? Try to find that one. Stymied by your endeavor for happiness and you get misery instead. Then you go back to Tyaga. So these are the two paths. Bhoga, I'm trying to enjoy because it looks like I can, and I have an opportunity, and I go for it, and then I suffer instead. So then I say, I give up the world. But it's not our world to give up. But the middle path is, I see everything in the universe as paraphernalia to be used in Krishna's service. Then, following that path, we can truly be happy. Okay, a couple more. Yes, Bali Prabhu? And then we have Pavani Bhakti. We don't see Vaikuntha Nayaka Prabhu yet, otherwise he'd be in the top left screen. Okay, go ahead.
I can see
Bali
Vaikuntha Nayak Prabhu.
He's there, but no hand up yet. Okay.
Yeah. We all notice Vaikuntha Nayak Prabhu. Thank you. So I have one reflection and then one question. So let me start with the reflection. Regarding the same renunciation, there is one, Radha Govind Maharaj was giving a lecture, I was listening. There was a king called named Bhartuhari in the Vedic literature. So the Bhartuhari, he renounced his kingdom and went to the forest and doing meditation. But on the other one side, one day, an old lady, he was going to the bank of the Godavari to take her bath, and on the side he saw two monk. They are fighting because there is a banyan tree, and in the tree there is a nail, and they are fighting. This is my nail, because they put their cloth. So they are fighting that how come you put your cloth, your towel in my nail? It is just a one. You can find out any branches and hang your cloth, but they are fighting for long time. So the old lady come and told, look at the king, Bhartuhari. He left the kingdom and went to the forest, and the two guys are fighting for a little bit of nail space. Then the other person, one monk, fell down at the lotus feet of the old lady and said, "Oh, my mother, I am very sorry. I am that King Bhartuhari." Just imagine, he left it and is fighting for the nail. And you gave me the realizations that, again, I have a subtle, anywhere I go, no matter how I leave my space, anywhere I go, there is a places of chances of attachment and engagement. And my other question is, back to the Bhagavatam, the one you mentioned about Vyasadev, why he realized the absolute personality of Godhead along with Maya, because it is said, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, "What is your realization?" He said, "My realization is to see the Syamasundar form of the Lord, nothing else, not even 400 form, the Syamasundar form." But here Vyasadeva is Hiranmaya Patrena, that is removed, the effulgence is removed, but he should have seen the whole personality without Maya, but he is seeing along with the Maya. So what is the meaning behind it? Could you explain?
He's seeing the complete absolute truth, which includes, as the Vishnu Purana says, Vishnu Shakti Para Prokta Kshetragyakya Tatapara Avidya Karma Sangyangya Tritiya Shakti Rishite. There's these three main categories in the complete conception of the absolute truth. There's the internal energy, the external energy, and the marginal energy. So in seeing, as he's going to be presenting to all of us the absolute truth, he's necessarily seeing these three energies. And it's very important to note that he sees Maya as being outside, that's number one, and also that she's a servant. She's a servant of the Lord. Similar to Bilva Mangal Thakur, when he mentions that those who are engaged in the internal energy through the process of bhakti yoga note that Maya is there, but she's there as a servant. She's outside, and liberation is there, dharma, artha, karma, moksha, all the different aspects of the Lord's energies, they're all outside waiting, like, how can I serve you? So in different places, the emphasis is there specifically on the vision of the devotee, and this is the complete vision to see that Krishna's there and his energies are there. It's one of the very specific and important aspects of this verse is to note that Krishna has energies. Because, of course, in other philosophies like Shankaracharya, the issue of the material world and Maya, this is one of the as you remember, Radhika Raman Prabhu, when he presented this point, this talk on the Tattva Sandarbha, he said to the two big questions to answer are, is God personal or impersonal? And then the second one is what to do about Maya. What to do about the material world. It's a question which is in all theological circles called theodicy. So if God is all good and he's all powerful, then why is there evil in the world? And then the materialistic person who doesn't have this complete vision that there is the personality of God and his servant is Maya. How he's serving? He's serving by purifying the living entities so that they'll come back into the fold of the spiritual world. If they don't have that vision, then they say, well, God's just cruel. He must be a monster if he's all powerful, but he's not merciful because he's making us suffer. Or he's all merciful, but he's not all powerful. What could he do? But the idea of God is that he's the 3O God. He's omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipotent. Omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipotent, the 3O God. So the 3O God, how can you then explain Maya or the material energy? And that has to be explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam so that we can understand what our relationship is with Maya and what God's relationship is with Maya also. That's one of the main important aspects of philosophy, especially religious philosophy, is say, why does the world exist? And what is God's part in it? And Krishna answers that in the Bhagavad Gita, and it's very well answered in the Bhagavatam also. And this is the introduction to that point. This is the jumping off point. These verses specifically are important, as Srivas Pandit Prabhu pointed out when Radhika gave this class, and he was asking for where in the Bhagavatam should we look for points, and Srivas said, yeah, look right in these verses, right? Wasn't that you? I think so. Okay, a couple more questions. Yes, Kennedy.
Hare Krishna. I just had a quick reflection, which was nothing in this world is free except for Krishna's causeless mercy. Everything else comes at a cost, which is repeated birth and death. And so long as we remain in that duality, we're only ever running in circles.
Yeah, good points. Summarized as, if all else fails, and it will, chant Hare Krishna. Yeah, that's a nice summarization, and it's one that's not widely known because we don't have the teaching, or people generally don't have the teaching of the Bhagavatam, which is being presented here in seed form, that there is a God. He has multiple energies. We have a relationship with him, but right now we're in relationship with Maya, or the external energy. And to know the futility of our relationship with Maya is a good start. We also have to know our relationship with Krishna. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Beautiful morning program, Prabhu. Thank you. And this particular, like the sannyas, means you know everything where it goes, and especially using it in service of Krishna. One question I have, Maharaj, is how the renunciation and regulating the senses correlates. Because to regulate senses, something needs to be renounced in a beginning stage. So how both can be coordinated?
Well, we regulate them by engaging them in what we call ajata ruchi raganuga sanana bhakti. All our activities actually are precursors to awakening a spontaneous love for Krishna. So think about the ways that we control our senses. We don't just go sit in a ring of fire and then try to tolerate it, right? We don't sit in freezing cold water, although I hear that's good for you, just for the sake of seeing how we can tolerate the senses. This is a militant approach to controlling the senses, and Krishna brings it up in his teachings to Uddhava in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. He says sometimes people militantly try to control the senses, and he gives an example. So I'm like, I'm going to control the tongue by fasting. So that doesn't mean fasting on Janmashtami, because we get really blissful when we do that, right? By the end of the day, it's like, eat? I forgot. I was too busy at being happy all day long and just chanting. And so it means that I'm going to, tongue, that's it. No more for you. So Krishna says, here's what happens. After you do that for some time, then the tongue comes back to you later and goes, excuse me, sir, but you owe me. You owe me 10 times more now because you left me out in the cold. You didn't give me anything. Whereas we have Sharira Vijaja. Don't get excited. What Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that's why that prayer is so relevant, is because, no, we're not just starving the tongue. We're giving prasad. And he says in a later prayer that what a yogi gets after 10,000 years of repressing the senses, we're going to get in one sitting by honoring prasadam of the Lord. So that's the difference between bhakti and militantly neglecting the senses. So when we regulate the senses, what do? We have a morning program. So we want to wake up early because we don't want to miss it, right? Say yes. Yeah. So on the way up, wherever we were going, we were listening. I found this old CD. I think Dravida made it, and it's called The Morning Program. And as all the morning programs starts with Prabhupada sing, Samsara Dhavanana Lida Loka. Then what comes after that? After the Samsara Dhavan. Vrindaital. Yeah, Nrsingadev, right? And then there's Vrindaital Siddhibhyai Priyai Keshavasya. Then what? The 10 offenses, probably Shikshashtakam. And then we have Guru Puja, Srimad, whatever, anyway, you all know. So there are all these things, and I was listening to it, I was like, wow, that goes on for a long time. If that's your morning, I mean, you're just absorbed in singing, dancing, swaying, playing musical instruments, dancing, just like the verse says in the Guru Vashtakam. And then your whole morning's gone. It's like, what did you do this morning? Oh, I was dancing and singing. And then, did you eat? Yeah, it was prasadam. So these are all activities that lead to spontaneous devotional service, and we're engaging our sense. Somebody's in ecstasy back there. We're engaging our senses in relationship to Krishna. In the beginning, we're doing it because we may be attracted to CNN instead, and therefore we say, no, we have to go and regulate our senses by hearing the Mangalartik instead. And then gradually we get taste. So it's not just restricting the senses, but our regulation of the senses means to engage them in sensual activities in relationship to Krishna. And that will come to fruition where the senses awaken. And each one of the senses will be strongly attracted to seeing Krishna, to hearing about Krishna, to tasting Krishna prasadam. All the sensual activities are meant to be engaged in Krishna's service. That's how they are originally. Prabhupada once gave the example of how our senses are engaging with the world now. If you take your tongue and wrap it in gauze, you know what that is? And then try to enjoy a rasgulla. Rasgulla is it's the squeaky clean Bengali sweet. It's so subtle. You can get them at K.C. Das. In fact, when the devotees first went to Calcutta, Prabhupada saw K.C. Das. You know K.C. Das? It's a sweet shop in Calcutta. I think it's kind of like Starbucks here. But K.C. Das, he said they're so first class, they're so sattvic there. You can take those sweets. It was before we had facility at the Calcutta temple. You can offer them to Shri Shri Radha Govinda. They're so first class there. And the rasgulla, even now, it comes in a clay pot with a little straw wrapped around the outside with a banana leaf over it. And you get a pot full of rasgullas. Yeah? And those rasgulla, it's a sublime, it's a little chilled, and then you take it out of this syrupy sauce, and then you offer to Krishna, pop it in your mouth. And it just has this sublime sattvic taste. And if the rasgulla is made properly, then there's a little squeaky sensation if it's done right. And that's a rasgulla. But we don't get that in the material world. The senses are so accustomed to the lower modes of material nature. People eat horrible things. This is something that one of our acharyas writes in a song. He said, everyone's here in the material world, all living entities, they're just eating abominable things. Even the rabbits, I saw them yesterday. They're eating the salad bar of the material world, but like, God, you want a little something on that? Or, they're just eating grass, basically, and whatever they find on the ground. And it's not palatable prasadam. I forget how we got into this, but engaging the senses in Krishna's service is sublime, and it happens very quickly for the devotees engaged in devotional service because it's quite natural. And the happiness of regulating the senses by engaging them in Krishna's service is unparalleled, and it leads to unlimited, ever-increasing happiness of the senses, engaging them in Krishna's service. Okay, the last question comes just at the last minute from Vaikuntha Nayaka Prabhu. Hare Krishna. All the way from Mysore, the home of Mysore Pak.
Dandavat Pranam Guru Maharaj, Dandavat to all the devotees for so nicely encouraging me. I just had a reflection about the Bhoga and the Tyaga, the chakra that you mentioned. I was reminded of a quote that's become very famous by one author, I think it's named Michael Hop something. Those who remain, he's written this book. And the quote goes something like this, like good times create weak men and weak men create hard times create strong men and strong men create good times. So I was thinking that good times is the bhoga and the hard times is the tyaga. So just like how it happens in a cycle, the good times. You just cannot have only the good times. That leads to the hard times, and in the hard times you feel, okay, let me do some austerity, and you do some tyaga, and you get to the good times. Then again you get puffed up and you do something mischievous and you fall into hard times. So just wanted to share that. Thank you.
This is such a good point. And then finally, we have to have information about Krishna. We have to have access to Krishna in order to break that cycle. And this is the revelation Srila Vyasadev brings us. By the order of his spiritual master, after seeing everything that Vyasadev had compiled, he's the compiler, the editor of all the information available, he brought it forth for the Kali Yuga. He gave a lot of information that led people to an idea that perhaps I can still balance things here in the material world. And his spiritual master didn't like that. He said, you have to give them means the world, a clear conception of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Otherwise, they'll inevitably take advantage of the loopholes that you left behind. Give them the perfect system, which is Krishna consciousness and Srimad Bhagavatam. So, last point, because you've had your hand up since time immemorial. And we have another one online. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to say that it is such a relief that there is a supreme controller and he is a person, and most important, I am not him. And I was thinking that all I have to do is just do unconditional, uninterrupted service, and he takes care of everything. So your class today reminded me of that point.
These are nice summations. You should collect those and put them on a wall somewhere. But that's a good summation of the points. Thank you very much. And because of my... Shankari Kaur's here. Okay, that's who that is in the top left. Please go ahead, Shankari Kaur.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Just a very quick reflection. You just mentioned about KC Das, and that's very close to my house where I stay in Kolkata. So before coming to Krishna consciousness, we would look at KC Das, oh, tin of rasgullas. But now after hearing the stories from you, every time I pass through, it's become an udipan to remember Prabhupada and you. So how the perspective just changes. I just wanted to share that. So, Krishna.
Yeah, that's good case in point, that we see the world in a certain way. We're in the same world when we come to Krishna consciousness, but we adjust the way we see it. Instead of seeing it as a place, how can I enjoy it? And really, how many rasgullas can one eat? And, you maybe in your youth you can eat more, but later on it becomes really dangerous. But how many can you offer to Krishna? The satisfaction of making rasgullas for Krishna, maintaining a goshala so you have local ahimsa milk to offer to Krishna, and then taking the time, the cooking of it, and then putting it on the plate, putting a tulsi leaf, offering to Krishna. Then the real satisfaction in the heart arises. And of course, honoring afterwards, honoring prasad means you're remembering, oh, I offered this to Krishna with love, he took it. And then there's that intimate connection. Lord Chaitanya said, Krishna Pela. When he tasted some of the prasad, he said, oh, this has Krishna's, he's already tasted this. So the flavor of his mouth is in the prasadam. And this is the kind of ecstasy that fills up the heart that one gets from eating rasgullas. Okay, so now we have some special presentation from our youthful section, which today is by a student from Risheshwar Leela's class. And I'm going to decamp from here, and then we're going to have a presentation. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Lakshmana Shringadev, if you so desire, please engage us in your service. Thank you for considering our requests. Om Tat Sat. Vanchakalpadrivishya kripasanabheva chapatitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah.
Okay. Yeah.
Speak loudly, introduce yourself, say your name and age. No details. If you forget something, just keep moving on.
Should I start?
Yeah, you can start. You just start. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, start.
Hare Krishna, everybody. My name is Mukund, and today I'll talk about positive and negative responses. Have you ever felt Have you ever felt like you've been unfairly or unjustly treated? Dhruv Maharaj felt the same way when he wanted to sit on his father's lap. In part 1 of How to Respond Effectively, Nitai talked about the first part of the Dhruv Maharaj story. And today I'll be talking about 3 other stories expanding on the topic of responding effectively. To summarize the story, Dhruv Maharaj's stepmother, Suruchi, selfishly stopped Dhruv when he wanted to sit on his father's lap and told him that only children from her womb can sit on his lap. Uttanapad, witnessing the situation, also didn't do anything about it and just let it happen. Suniti, on the other hand, who is Dhruva's biological mom, she told him that he should 1. Never desire harm for others, 2. Everyone suffers due to their own past deeds, and 3. That Krishna will fulfill all your desires. Now I'll tell you a story about an arrogant boy and a humble king. One time, there was a king named Parikshit who was out hunting and got thirsty midway. To quench his thirst, he went to a sage named Sage Samika, who was absorbed deep in meditation. When he asked the sage for water, the sage didn't respond because he was deep in meditation, but that offended King Parikshit. Parikshit then placed a death snake around the sage's body, which angered the sage's son Shringi. On the spur of the moment, the 5-year-old boy criticized and cursed King Parikshit to die in 7 days. Now Shringi, ahead of time, became a self-appointed judge of the situation and impulsively reacted negatively. Thankfully, King Parikshit took it as a reaction of his own act of insulting the sage and didn't make a scene out of it. Sage Samika also later regretted the impulsive behavior of his son. But the point is that the arrogance of being a Brahmana made Shringi think of himself as a self-appointed judge and impulsively react in a bad way. There was one time when all the great sages, leaders, and Brahmanas came together to perform a 1,000-year sacrifice. And when Daksha Prajapati, the expert and chief ancestor, came into the assembly, everybody except Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma stood up to respect him. After he offered his obeisances to his father, Lord Brahma, he was enraged to see that Lord Shiva didn't stand up. In fact, he was still sitting there meditating. Daksha considered Shiva to be lower ranking than him because Daksha married Shiva's daughter, which makes him the son-in-law, and for him not to respect his father-in-law, that was it angered him. And on the spur of the moment, he criticized and cursed Shiva to not have a part in the sacrificial offering. Thankfully, Shiva was very tolerant of his criticism and didn't say a single word in retaliation. Instead, because the followers of the two started arguing with each other, he silently got up and left as well. Because Daksha hated Shiva so much, at that time that hatred came out, and he cursed him. But Shiva was very tolerant of it and didn't respond. Now I'll tell you a story about a cruel brother and a clever brother-in-law. One time when Kamsa heard that the 8th child of Devaki was going to kill him, he instantly wanted to kill his own sister. Because he reacted on the spot, he didn't take in the fact that Devaki was a woman, his sister, and the object of his affection. He didn't even care about his reputation or anything, and instantly wanted to kill her on her wedding day. Thankfully, there was a very wise devotee named Vyasadev who was witnessing this and instantly started to argue with Kamsa not to kill Devaki. After some convincing, he finally was able to convince him and Devaki was saved. The selfishness of Kamsa made him so cruel that he wanted to kill his own sister and didn't think about it. In conclusion, the 3 stories that I talked about all have a bad outcome because of a bad response. In story 1, Shringi, the arrogance of being a Brahmana, made him think as a self-appointed judge of the situation and responded negatively. In story 2, Daksha Prajapati thought of himself as a higher position than Shiva and also cursed him. And in story 3, Kamsa was so selfish that he didn't think about it and he wanted to kill his own sister. So this doesn't happen to you. You should build control over your emotions and think before you speak. Otherwise, bad things might happen, and it may later come back to haunt you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mukund.
Hare Krishna.
I really like how you used a topic that's practical for all of us, because every one of us have multiple opportunities throughout each one of our days in which we have to respond to someone or some situation. And the illustrations you gave through the stories were very helpful to remember, because we can read the stories, we hear the story from you, and then we know what the outcome is. And that helps us to be very clear about the consequences of our responses. So it was a practical point you made, but you used stories from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and that's a really nice way of preaching and extending the Bhagavatam. Thank you very much. Well done. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Maharaj.
Anyone else has any thoughts or questions, any reflections?
Hare Krishna. Your presentation reminded me of a favorite verse of mine from the Shikshastakam, and I'm not able to say it in Sanskrit yet, but it's the be more tolerant than a blade of grass. And it reminds me as well in that when we have to behave like grass or a tree, there's also the flexibility as well as the strength. And nothing that these people had gone through in these stories would seem tolerable to the average person. But when we're able to have that tolerance, when we're able to respond well to these situations, it aligns us so much more to Krishna. So thank you for the reminder.
Thank you, Mataji. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Mukund. Yeah, well done actually. He was so well prepared, right? He got into the presentation, and I think the stories that you relayed were very, it was memorable for all of us, right? So one feedback, if I may give, right, it's in the early in the morning, people are still sleeping sometimes in the class, so an introduction would have helped, like, a 5-second introduction that I'm going to talk about this. It'll wake the audience up. So, but other than that, everything was just perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu, for that feedback. Yes, Abhay.
I liked how with each story there was always a bad reaction and also the good reaction associated with it, like Shiva's reaction, Parikshit Maharaj's reaction, and what was I forgot the last story, but yeah, there was always
Devaki Vasudev story.
Oh, right. So Vasudev's reaction. Sorry. But I liked how you gave the comparison of the poor way to react to a situation and the proper way to react, so that was nice.
Thank you, Abhay. Yes, anyone else? Okay, so before we just go to the next part of the program, Maharaj, you want to guide us on some tips on how we can improve this service? We're actually almost coming to end of the cycle of presentation, so good to hear.
Yeah. So your content is one thing, and then as who mentioned, yes, stay here, Mukund. The presentation is another thing. So I'm passing on to you something I learned from a seminar in public speaking. I took it here in Silicon Valley many years ago. And there are components in it that are easy to learn that can improve your presentation drastically. So one of them was an exercise that we did in the class called getting into your bozo zone. Bozo, you know bozo? Bozo was a clown. And nowadays bozo means like to be kind of flamboyant almost to the point of looking like a fool or an idiot. If you say like you're a bozo, that's not a good thing. Can you resonate with bozo? Okay, you can look it up. Bozo. So you have to, when you're practicing speaking and then when you speak, it's helpful to try getting into your bozo zone. So what they did, and if you put up on the screen, please, a poem called Ozymandias. Ozymandias by Shelley. They'll give us a passage from Shakespeare or from one of the classic literatures, and they'll ask to present it in your bozo zone. So here's a tendency, when we get on in front of people, we go like this, right? This is like, we close up our whole chest area like this. And in the bozo zone, you learn to open up, like, ah. Try that. Oh. But a little more demonstrative. You're still stiff, like, ah. Yeah. Now, when we did that, they'd film us. They filmed us getting into our bozo zone, and then they'd take us individually and show us what it looks like when you're in your bozo zone. And what it turns out is our self-image when we're on stage is that I have to close up here, and when I'm being more demonstrative, I think, wow, that's over the top. But what they show us is that when you're in your bozo zone, what you think is your bozo zone really opening up, that's where the audience wants you to be. You're like open, you're expressive, you're saying things with a little more emphasis on certain words that are meaningful to you. Can you blow up Ozymandias? So in this poem, it's got to be bigger though, we can't see. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, "Too vast," I can't see, "and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command." So when you say the poem, you want to open up and go further than you think the audience will want you to go. That's your bozo zone. Can you read that from here? Can you make it bigger? There's probably 1 million different Ozymandias poems on there, and that may be the smallest one you picked. Okay, come over here. Open up and go really wild with it. Get your hand down. See, hand down here. Use it more out here. Yeah, go for it in your bozo zone. Read the poem and be as demonstrative as possible. Go.
I met a traveler.
No, use the mic maybe.
I met a traveler from an antique land who said, "Two vast trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert, near them on the sand."
Move your legs, use your hands, express yourself. Bozo, be crazy, be crazy. Just go beyond just reading it, just like as wild as you can. Go.
Half sunk a ship, shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkles lip sneer of cold command. Tell that its sculptor will those passions read, which yet survived, stamped on these lifeless things.
Unlock your elbow, let it go. More, 2 more lines. Yeah, like that, go more. Yeah, okay. Now, when he first came up and he read his very excellent talk and he said it, if he had done it with a little more panache means like a plume, you know, like you're expressing yourself, you're opening up, what do you think the difference would have been for the audience? How would you have felt? What? More open, more engaging. So practicing getting into, you can practice by yourself and watch yourself and try to be demonstrative and bring it out. So when you bring your presentation, I'm not just talking about you, I'm talking about all of us. When we present, when you're more open and you're bringing it out in a way that's expressive, then the audience starts to connect with you a little bit more. Do one more line.
Tell that its sculpture will those passions read, which yet survive stamped on the lifeless things.
Tell that its sculptors well those passions which shall yet survive.
Tell that its sculptures well those passions read.
Give him a hand. Yeah, see, they like it. So then, one other thing for now, but we can talk more about these things because I think it could be really helpful to add into the mix, is when you're talking to the audience, pick one person and make eye contact. If I make generic eye contact, I'm looking at everybody, I'm looking at nobody. But if you pick one person, especially people who aren't sitting like this and thinking like, when's this guy going to be finished? But if you find a friendly visage, as from the poem, of somebody outside and you look at them and you make like a contact, like find a contact with somebody and say one of the parts of your speech that you gave earlier. And get your hands out from your heart. Hang this one down here. Yeah, that looks better. And then tell him 2 lines from your talk that you gave.
In conclusion, the 3 stories that I told all have a bad outcome.
Him, just look at him.
Because of a bad response. In story 1, Shringi thought himself as a self-appointed judge and cursed him impulsively. In story 2, Daksha Prajapati had a very high ego and he cursed Shiva and thought he was higher than Shiva. So
okay, so how did it feel for you when he was talking directly to you? Better, right? And then also, already you're starting to loosen up. And even your face now, it's looking like open, smiling, and things like that. You want to open up to the audience. And not that you just pick one person and you tell the whole talk to them. But you move around the room, and you'll find one person, and you'll say a line, you'll move somebody else, work the whole room, and find people that you're talking directly to like you're having a personal conversation. Those 2 things. How many more speeches do we have? They're going on forever. So if we add this element in, excellent first-class content, and then you start using some of these points in which you can connect to the audience in a more visceral way, then I think it'll be powerful. What do you think, Mukund?
Of course.
Okay. Gaur Premanande Haribol.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maharaj. That was such an enlightening instruction for all of us. I just want to mention, I've known Mukund since he was, maybe 5 years in my class in Damodar, and he's come a long way to even come here and stand and to be able to talk. I have to be honest, when I was at that age in teenage life, I had a lot of stage fright. I wouldn't even do this if someone asked me to. So I'm very grateful for my class students to make this first attempt. There's a lot of learning that they have on many levels. It's spiritual, but it's also presentation skills. So we are very grateful for this opportunity and platform with such an encouraging audience and so much personal instructions and blessings of the Lordships and Srila Prabhupada and all of you. So we hope that we can continue this series, because I see there is so much positive energy from the parents, from the families, and from the students, and from the audience to have this exercise that we have for this age. So thank you so much. And very grateful to all of you for all that encouragement and all the encouragement and all the time and energy that everybody gives every Saturday morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Visheshwari Leela, for your tireless way of bringing the kids up in Krishna consciousness and engaging them in activities that they'll be using throughout their whole lives as presenters of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. Now we're going to move all the asanas back and we're going to have a Guru Puja. Gaur Premanande Haribol. Hare Krishna. We got to roll this carpet up. Thank you. Today we're going to read the English translation before we do these Sanskrit verses. And here's how they go. I bow down to the beautiful lotus feet of my spiritual master, by whose causeless mercy I have obtained the supreme holy name, the divine mantra, the service of son of Shachi Mata, association of Srila Sarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami and his older brother Sanatan Goswami, the supreme abode of Mathura, the blissful abode of Vrindavan, the divine Radha Kund and Govardhan Hill, and the desire within my heart for loving service of Sri Radhika and Madhava and Vrindavan. O spiritual master, O giver of divine wisdom, O friend of the fallen, you are the giver of your own bliss, and you are the only ocean of mercy. Although dwelling in Vrindavan, you have descended for the welfare of all fallen souls like myself, and you are preaching the divine love of Radha for Krishna. Please be kind upon me. O friend of the lowly, O Gurudev, you are the only ocean of mercy. I'm a dull fool and have committed hundreds of thousands of offenses. I have fallen into a dense myriad of sins. Therefore grace me with your mercy so that my mind may be fixed on your lotus feet and on Sri Krishna. O Lord, transcendental poets and experts in spiritual science could not fully express their indebtedness to you, even if they were endowed with the prolonged lifetime of Brahma, for you appear in two features, externally as the Acharya and internally as the Supersoul, to deliver the embodied living being by directing him how to come to you. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. Our only wish is to have our consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens our darkened eyes and fills our hearts with transcendental knowledge. He is our Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates, by him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy. the friend of the poor, and the Lord and Master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. Namah Shreshnam. Is that too high? Namah Shreshtam Manamapi Shachiputram Atra Sarupam Shri Rupam Tasya Grajam Uruparim Maturim Gaushtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaramoho Radhika Madhavasham Tapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Datosmi He Guru Jnanada Dina Bandho Swananda Data Karanaika Sindho Vrindavana Sina Hitavatar Prasida Radha Karnaya Pracharam He Dina Bandho Karanaika Sindho Turu Prasadam Mai Mandamudhe Laksha Paradhe Bahupapagade Tatpada Padnes to Matishta Krishna Naivo Payantya Pachitim Kavayasta Vesha Brahmayushapi Kridam Rida Buddhasvaranta Yontar Bahisthanubratam Ashubham Vadunvan Acharya Chaitya Vapusha Swagatim Yalakti Sri Guru Charana Brahma Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Ram Bhajan. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Get ready, get ready, ready. Hey, Radha Govinda, Gopala Hare. Hey, Bhagare. Hey, Radha Govinda, Gopala Hare. Names, all the names. What about Radhe Govinda, Radhe Gopala. Put it up. All of them. Say it clearly and slowly.
Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Govinda,
Radha Gopala,
Radhe Gopala, Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madhava,
Radha Vanki Bihari, Radha Damodara,
Radha Gokulananda,
Radha Giridhari,
Radha Girihari, Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan,
Radha Gopinatha,
Radha Gopinatha, Radha Kirchor Gopinatha, Radha Kunja Vihari, Radha Landanishwara, Gandharvika Giridhari, Radha Nila Madhav, Radha Parishvara, Radha Parthasarthi, Radha Radhanatha. Come on. Radha Rasa Bihari, Radha Shama Sundar, Radha Govinda, Radha Kalachandji, Bhajare, hey, Radha Govinda, Gopala Hare, hey, I say Shri Bhagavana ko mere Paramba Pranam hai. I say Shri Bhagavana ko mere. I say Shri Bhagavana ko mere Pranam hai. I say I say Shri Jnana Shyama ko mere Paramba Pranam hai. I say Shri Jnana Shyama ko mere Paramba Pranam Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Prerajikacharya Shulkarishta Shishiman Abhay Charanad Avinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Prerajikacharya Shulkarishta Shishiman Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopavina Shabakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sri Mayapur Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Sri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Jamuna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Samveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. Gaur Premanande Haribo. Now, we'd like to have our announcements from the Bhakti community. Let's welcome our representatives.
Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone for the opportunity to talk about Bhakti community. As you all know, Bhakti community is a community of spiritual speakers. So any newcomers, I was actually thinking, last week Barbara was here, and she used to attend. She attends Bhakti Community Program from Atlanta, and when she came to the temple and she came here to talk, she was looking at all the devotees and she saw Adin Prabhu and she said, "I know you." And then she saw Kennedy, "I know you." And she met Srivas Pandit Prabhu, "I know you." So I was feeling like, yeah, that was the goal of Bhakti Community, that before, when we give them books, if they directly come to the temple, maybe they may not be comfortable. What's going on here? They won't understand, and they don't know anybody here. They don't have any friends. But what we really do is we give them that friendship, that connection, and that heart-to-heart touch, that they start feeling comfortable and welcomed. And then ISP is a great community. We all welcome all newcomers. So thank you for all of you. But Bhakti Community does this, spiritual connection with them. It's very important that when we give books to anybody, we also give them Bhakti Community. So at least they can join some sessions with us before they can come to the temple. We have 2 programs which are the most popular, Monday and Thursday at 5:30 p.m. They really love the program. The Thursday program, we have further customized it. It used to be 32-week program. So it was very hard for our book distributors to wait till the 32 weeks are done, which sometimes took more than a year. So we've divided into 8 weeks now. So 8 programs will just continuously repeat every 8 weeks. So if you have newcomers, we want them to join the sessions. Just join them any session, because everything is a very beginner-like session. So please invite people to Bhakti Community. If you need more information about other programs and how to invite them, how to encourage them, please talk to me or other volunteers in the room here. Hare Krishna.
And now, our co-Sankirtan leader, Malini Devi Dasi, is going to update us on how we're doing on reaching our goal of smashing our goal of 3,000 Bhagavatam sets before or by Bhadra Purnima, beating Pune, and getting the 34.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And one of the things that we wanted to do was get the 34 out. There's a PDF that was sent. It was shared on the Weekend Warriors group for you to print it if you like, or it's available on your phone if you wanted to read it forwards and backwards, however you like to memorize. Apart from that, we were going we were at the store last weekend distributing Srimad Bhagavatam sets, and I think it was one of the record where we distributed 16 Bhagavatam sets at one store. And we met really nice people, and the mastermind behind it to distribute so many sets is Achita Kumar Prabhu. So I mean, he's so deep in meditation and absorption in distributing Bhagavatam sets. Doesn't matter, he's in the mood of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that he doesn't see who's qualified, who's unqualified. If he sees a small spark, say that, yes, I want to read, he wants them to take a Bhagavatam. I would like to request Prabhu to see if you come here and share what was your thought process on how you said that we have to distribute 15 sets and you would beat it by distributing 16 sets. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. First of all, I would like to thank for getting this opportunity to go out for doing this book distribution. So before going out, I asked for blessings from Anirudh Nitai Chandra Prabhu. He's here. Madhav Govind Prabhu and our Grace Sukeshwari Mataji. And they profusely blessed. We loaded the sets, and when we went, we only did for 5.5 hours. But there a lot of people were looking at the books. And then, interestingly, I do not remember any time we have loaded a Bengali Bhagavatam set. So when I am loading the set from the shed, people are helping, and I also loaded. When I was loading, especially Bengali set, we never did Bengali set. Do we really need, or should I take English? But somehow we did it. And then in the store, I saw some couple, they're walking out of the store, and when I was going to them, and they were a little hesitant in the beginning. And then when we opened the conversation, they told they are Bengalis. And interestingly, after some time, they quickly took the Bhagavatam and they asked, do you have a Bengali set? So interestingly, as Vaisesika Prabhu says always, it's like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is doing everything. We had to just participate. We had to just participate there and give our attendance and touch the pavement. That is the thing that we have done. And so that is one example. And second example on that same day is one Mataji came and she was saying that, I already have Bhagavad Gita. Do you have Bhagavatam? I only want Bhagavatam. And she came and she is very artistic. Her name is Rupa. So that is the last one. And then, so she took Bhagavatam, and then when we asked, can we take your picture? She said, no, not my picture. I'll give you Krishna's picture if you want, post that. And then she, on her phone, she's actually running an Instagram handle where she posts all the pictures of Krishna with all the flowers and everything. So she's very much interested in flower garland making. So maybe, the team, I can introduce them if they want the contact so that we can encourage her to come here. And it just flowed. And some people, like when we are a group of people here, right, and discussing, some people are interesting to see what is going on. And then while we are talking, sometimes we have to talk for some people for a longer time. And some people are they're already taking the sets. So that also motivated some of the people to take. But it was it's all Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy and the blessings of the devotees and empowerment that, the sets, Bhagavatam set knows where to go. And it's just, we have to be there with the sets. And one anxiety we had is, we convinced one person to take the Bhagavatam, and we already did 15 by the time. And then we ran out of an English Bhagavatam set. And it was very hard for him to go. We took his contact though, that he waited for a few moments, and we don't have an English set. We were not prepared for 16. So then immediately, Rohini Dulal Prabhu went to my garage, which was nearby, and then there were 4 English sets. And while he's bringing this, we lost this person already because he's in a hurry, he left. But there was another person who came, and he also was interested, and we were utterly praying that, we were telling him, just wait for 5 minutes and you'll get. And we were able to hold him, and then he got the set finally.
If you want to see him in action, you can come to India Cash and Carry. I don't know what is his goal today, but I'm sure by Krishna's blessings, he will smash them. So similarly, we have other spots that went last time, did very nice. One team went all the way to Folsom, and they distributed Bhagavatam sets in Folsom. And the Western Sankirtan team, one team today, went already on traveling Sankirtan. Kauta Karna Prabhu and few devotees, they went to traveling Sankirtan. And Haldar Rupar Prabhu, can you... Okay. You're also traveling, Prabhu?
I am not traveling.
Yeah. So Krishna Sakar Prabhu returned, and along with his wife Kamal, I don't know if she's here, they went on a 10-day traveling Sankirtan team last weekend. And they returned back on Sunday, just before the Sunday Feast program. And it felt like the war heroes coming back home. Prabhu, would you like to share anything quickly on your trip highlights?
Yes, Hare Krishna. Thank you. As Achyut Kumar Prabhu said, it is like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doing everything. We just have to touch the pavement. We went there at Glacier National Park, which was good. But after sports, some sports which were uncovered by Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we did many states, Idaho, Washington, and Montana, and Oregon. And these sports were, like, there were millions of people. We did July 4th parade in Idaho, Coeur d'Alene, and it was amazing, new people. And we felt we felt that it was not us which was doing. We felt at every step that Krishna was telling that here you go here. We didn't know which sports to cover, and we felt that it was just mercy of our spiritual teacher and Krishna which was flowing through us, and we were just being used as an instrument. So thank you for giving us the opportunity and yes, giving us the platform from where we can go. It is we were feeling that that it is all the blood and sweat of ISV devotees who has given us this infrastructure where we don't have to worry anything. We just have to go, and it will just everything will be accomplished. So thank you so much. And sports are for today, as Mataji said, Kautukarna Prabhu and Nikunj Nayak Prabhu has went to Grass Valley for World Fest, and they will also cover Lake Tahoe. So, and then sports nearby are Palo Alto. There is a festival in Palo Alto. One team is going to Monterey and Santa Cruz. So, and there will be more sports. So if you like to join, please contact me or Haladarupa Prabhu. Yes, thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Isn't there Haight Ashbury today? Because I was planning on going there.
So there is also Youth Sankirtan team going out to Haight and Ashbury today. Kameshwari, I think she's on her way. Maybe she's coming with lots of prasadam, very nice prasadam. So if you haven't signed up yet, still there are spots. You can go. It's just until 4 o'clock only. After the prasadam, they will leave around 11:30 and be back by 4 p.m. It's very nice spot, Haight Ashbury. A lot of interesting people, very open.
Interesting, yeah.
But they're very open to spirituality. There is a table at I Love Ganesh. There is at the store, so it's safe. So please do join them as well.
Also, everyone who's going out, please stay hydrated. It's dangerous when the heat gets up at a certain level, and what's dangerous is if you get dehydrated, and you may not even know it, can lead to complications. So please drink lots of water. Electrolytes you can make with some salt and honey, and then stay with the electrolytes in your system and everything. Is that okay? Okay. Thank you very much. I have two quick announcements. One is that we'll be home, for the most part, here for the next couple of months. And during this time, I will be meeting with some of the department heads at ISV. I have an interest in working with specifically the department heads and going over strategic planning so that we all have a clear idea of where we're going and when we're going there, with KRAs and everything complete, and SWOT analysis, so forth. And also is a service opportunity. I have a godbrother named Gopati who had the foresight back in the 1970s to purchase high-end recording equipment. He had a very large, everything was large back then before technologists learned how to shrink everything. But he had a high-end tape recorder and really good microphones. It was a Nakamichi. State-of-the-art at the time, and he took it around with him and he recorded a lot of the kirtans, not the least of which was one of Prabhupada's godbrothers, named Kinshana Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj. And he also has thousands of other recordings from the early days. The other day when we were in London and they asked me to lead Agora Artik, I sang Jaya 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 Gora Chander Arotiko Shobha. And quite a few people came up to me afterwards and said, "Where'd you get that tune?" Well, it's Prabhupada's tune. It was there in the original days. And there are a lot of sounds from those days that are very interesting. They connect us to an era. You can feel the exuberance, the enthusiasm in the voices, and then the drum beats and so forth of the devotees at that time. And I think it's helpful, important for everyone to be able to hear the kirtans from those days. And so my godbrother had contacted me a couple of times, we've talked, and he needs a little advice and maybe some help about curating these and which platforms to put them out on. So if you have an interest in such things, that is, going back to the old days and hearing those types of things, and you also maybe have some enthusiasm for helping to organize that, I think it would be a good idea if you contact me and we can work on it together and form a team to make sure that those recordings get preserved and out to, we'll take them first here at ISV and listen to them all, and we'll figure out how to give them to everybody else as per Gopati's suggestion. There's one other aspect of Gopati Prabhu, my godbrother, is he learned to cook early on. He's one of the premier cooks in ISKCON. He recently collaborated with who's the famous cook in Australia? Kurma, and also my other godbrother, whose name starts with an A, who his name is going out of my head right now. Amala Harinam is his son, right? Anyway, Apurva, sorry. Yeah, so they collaborated on a cookbook to bring back some of the original recipes from the time that Kirtan Ananda passed them on after learning them from Prabhupada. He's an expert cook, and I was thinking also at some point we could encourage him to come here and give seminars to the cooks and talk about cooking from the old days. He learned from the originals, and also he learned from a devotee who was Prabhupada's godbrother named Anand Maharaj, who taught several devotees cooking in Mayapur for months and months. And he has the benefit of all these things, so that's another aspect. If somebody would help me keep in touch with Gopati Prabhu and see what we can get out of him to increase our service to Srila Prabhupada. So as far as the department heads, you can just be aware that I'll be getting in touch with you, and we'll schedule time so we can talk. And whoever wants to help me with Gopati, please contact me afterwards. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, if you so desire, please assist us in smashing the 3,000 and beating Pune and getting the 34. Everyone, thank you for considering our request. Everyone who agrees with this prayer in whole or in part, please unmute and say Hare Krishna. And now Avantika has been hobbled for the day. She had some strain of knee or something, so she couldn't come in. First time ever she wasn't here. And maybe somebody could tell us who the cooks are. Run quick and find out. Somebody. Yeah, Gita Priya is the one. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna. Today's cooks were Sumathura Mataji and her team. I didn't get much information, but it was Sumathura Mataji and her team.
Yesterday, there were 2 birthdays here that are consequential. First is Ramananda Sakaprabhu, who walked in the temple. Actually, he claims that I sold him a book at the San Francisco airport decades ago. I remember the day he walked in the temple, and we were all on our way out on Sankirtan. And I could tell from the way he walked in that he was staying. He had already decided from reading Prabhupada's books, hearing his talks. And then I said, well, we're just going out. And he said, where are you going? We said, we're going on Sankirtan. He said, what's that? I said, why don't you come and find out? And he came right out to one of the spots, and he sold a Sri Upanishad at the booth. And since then, for years, he was one of our premier Sankirtan devotees and also doing deity worship. And then he came to me and said, I just want to dedicate my life to worshiping Sri Sri Radha Madan Mohan. And of course that took some arrangement because he had a family and 2 kids, and he did that. He organized his finances so everyone was taken care of, and he moved in the temple to become a full-time pujari, and he essentially took Kshetra Sannyas, which means that he's dedicated to just staying here and worshiping the deities 24 hours a day, which is highly unusual. You don't find it very frequently. Jananivas and Pankajangri are there in Mayapur, but the pujaris who do this, they just go straight back to Godhead and keep their service going. So on Ramananda Saka Prabhu, your birthday, I want to say that I feel the touch of Krishna in my life because he sent you to me and also to all of ISV, and to become this backbone of not only deity worship, but you've become the acharya of organizing the audio-visual around the world. Wherever I go, I sit down, I go, oh, right, I'm not at ISV. This isn't going to work right. It's very rare to have everything work perfectly and have it all lined up. And that's all the brainchild of Ramananda Saka Prabhu. His devotion is steady, it's sincere, and it's completely unmotivated. So on the day of his birthday, I'd like to wish that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu keep you healthy, and may he support you in your service for many decades to come. Thank you for considering my request. Haribol. But that's not all. We also have Anushri's birthday. Since I've met you, Anushri, in fact, I remember when I first noticed you at what we called, before it was Yucham, it was called Kids Kirtan. And you were the most, I wouldn't say shy necessarily, it's just that you didn't talk. Until one day when we were going around talking about Sri Upanishad, and I said, what's favorite verses? Anybody who had a favorite verse? And she volunteered. And she perfectly recited, Saparya Gachshukram Akayam Avranam Asnavidam Shudam Apapavidam Kavir Manishi Paribu Swayambur. Just like that. And I thought of Kavi Karnapur, who when he was a child, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu kept saying to him, chant Hare Krishna, and he didn't say anything. He said, I came here to spread the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Shivananda saying, your son's the only one who won't chant. And Swarup Damodar said, no, he's holding something in, he wants to say it. And then one day Mahaprabhu said, recite Puri, his name was Puri at that time, Puri Das. And then he recited a beautiful prayer in Sanskrit glorifying the gopis who decorate their ears with the Katha of Krishna consciousness. And I think of you like that. He's very quiet, reticent, but you're like a gem. You have so many talents, and you're so steady in your devotional service, coming always to the programs, to the chanting, to the festivals, to every class, and very dedicated, and so much talent. And it's now coming out more and more. And it's probably impossible to hide now how talented you are. So we're blessed that you've come here into this assembly of ISV, by Lord Chaitanya's arrangement, with big things that you'll be doing throughout your life to spread the Krishna consciousness movement. And we wish you a happy birthday. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Go Premanande. But wait, there's more.
Yes. Today is Hansapriya's sister's 50th birthday.
Wow.
Chak-
Haribol.
Hansapriya, would you like to say something about Chakudidi?
Actually, I tell myself, charity begins from home. I should start glorifying my own family members because, it's very easy to take them for granted and not give them a respect because especially she's the oldest one. So we always demand things, Can you take care of Flickr or can you help me clean my laundry? So a little bit about Chaku Didi. Chaku Didi, actually when she was probably, Madhav's age or around 7 or 8 years old. Since then, she had so much attachment for the service. So she decided at that age that she didn't want to go off to college. She will go to the home science. Because home science, they teach sewing, they teach how to make garlands or knitting or even how to cook, everything. So she decided that would help because she didn't have interest in academy and she wanted to just stay in the temple all the time. She didn't like pulling out. I think many of the kids can relate to it. but she did go through the homeschooling, so that's where she learned the sewing. And actually she helped Jagarini and Nirakola last Nishingadev's appearance day for outfit that we made from the flowers. So she has done many flowers outfits and fabric outfits for the deities. Beside doing day-to-day services on the festival in Ahmedabad, on Janmashtami, we have a Srinathji deity which is very popular in Gujarat. So Srinathji would get the Chapan Bhog. And in that Chapan Bhog in Gujarat is very popular to buy Mahaprasadam. And believe it or not, she used to raise 500,000 rupees in every Janmashtami, 3 days of sale. So that was her service to the temple. And have you heard of Rajmandal Parikrama, Chaurasiko's Parikrama?
Yeah.
She has done 11 Rajmandal Parikrama. That is like you start from Kartik Purnima to the end of the Kartik Purnima. You go to each town, different pastimes where Krishna has performed his leelas. You go each day, you go to one town and you stay overnight in the camp. And that's pretty austere. I have done it only one time and I was knocked out. I tried second time and at the halfway I was out. But she has done 11 times of that Rajmandal Parikrama. And she was very dear to Yashamati Nandan Prabhu. She grew up under Yashamati Nandan Prabhu in Ahmedabad temple, and Yashamati Nandan Prabhu had 8 kids, and there were many other families like ours. They kind of grew up around the temple. And all of us kind of moved away from Ahmedabad temple, but my sister stuck around and she took care of him on day-to-day basis. He went through some physical challenge, but there were times that she would just take her own sari cloth or dupatta to wipe his tears and said, "Don't worry, I'm here." So she had the great relationship, even though my parents been here last 20 years, but she got so much love from the Vaishnavas of the movement, and I can tell you that she adores Loknath Maharaj's Kirtan like he's around her heart all the time. So she's really into the Brajmandal Parikrama. So today I'm celebrating her birthday, And we have dedicated theme to Rajmandal Parikrama. And Kameshwari is actually studying in Pavini Bhakti. They've been preparing to present the Rajmandal Parikrama, how it happens, where it goes. One thing was in Rajmandal Parikrama is not like you get to stay in hotels or a lot of rich devotee comes along. There are a lot of devotees from villages. They came from the nearby town or from India or even from Russia. So they don't have much money. So Rajmandal Parikrama did not have a budget to make the Chappan Bhog on Govardhan Puja day. They would make halwa out of oil. So my sister, she did Madhu curry around the town of Govardhan and town of Barsana and those area. And she started gathering all the ladies and started the Chappan Bhog for the Giriraj. So even now they're continuing that service, and because she's been in US from last 5 years, but they're still continuing doing the Chappan Bhog service. So when the crowd grew and the more everyone came forward and helped out with the services, she started baking a cake, which is to bake a cake in Barsana, because that's where they stay. It's not that easy. You have to dig up the hole to put the wood fire, and then there is no oven. So you put a big pot, and then they fill it up with the sand, and on the sand you put a little rack, and then you put a tray to bake a cake. So, and that's not the end of it. You can bake a cake, and then you have to protect it from all sort of insects. So you have to stay all night up doing that. So anyway, but when I was reflecting, because Pavini and Kameshwari wanted to do something for her, and Pavini kind of pushed me into looking into some things for my sister. So I'm really grateful to you to bringing my sister closer to my heart. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Well, I don't think we have cake this morning, but it sounds like if you crash your party tonight, you'll get some. Sharira vijajao jodendriya tahika jive pele vishaya shakare Dharma Jedivayati Loba Moisu Durmati Take Jeta Katita Shanshare Krishna Borodoya Moy Gori Bari Jivajai Saprasadana Dilobai Shayana Brita Pao Radha Krishna Gunagao Premidako Shri Chaitanya Nita Premidako Shri Chaitanya Nitai Mahaprasade Govinde Nam Brahmani Vaishnave Sapa Punyavatam Rajan Vishwa Sodai Vijay Prasade Sarvatikanam Hanirasto Pajayate Prasana Chetaso Yashu Budipaya Vatistate Prayopa Bhukta Satkanda Vasalankar Charshitaha Utishta Bodhino Dasa Tavamayam Jaimahi Bhagavat Shri Mahaprasadaki Gaur Premanande Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. I take it back. Cake for everyone. Hare Krishna to you. Hare Krishna to you. Hare Krishna, dear Ramananda Saka. Krishna to you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Wait, I'm trying to do the Hansa 20. Oh my God. Do Hansa 20. It's good cake. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Whoops. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. It's very similar. Gaur Premanandi Haribol. I got to go recover from this cake. I'll be back in a couple hours. Hare Krishna. Prasadam for everybody. Haribol. Panchakalpadrivishya kripa sindhave vacha patitanam pavanibhyo.